Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. This is your host, Matt Brown. Man, what a morning so far. I slept in a little bit later than I wanted to. Got started recording a little later than I wanted to. Recording at around 11 a.m. right now. Usually I record around 10-ish a.m. So recording about an hour and 15 later, which, again, I have a little morning routine. I mean, it's not, it's just kind of a basic routine, but I think anyone who knows when you have a routine or something, especially in the morning, you just like having it. And then when you don't do it, it kind of throws you all out of whack for your morning. That's what happened to me this morning, but it's all good. I'm still here and I'm ready to roll this morning. So today we have Top 10 Tuesday. It's not going to be college football like it was last week. We're going to go back to the NFL. And like a couple of weeks ago when we did, top 10 teams, quarterbacks, we're going to just kind of go over the top 10 that we didn't do, or we didn't have time to do a couple weeks ago. So we got head coaches, defenses, pass rushers. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about Bill Belichick and, his future with UNC. And then, will he ever come back to the NFL? So yeah, we got that planned for today's episode. So let's get right into it. And here we go. Starting off with the top 10 head coaches going in to the 2025 NFL season. I have a couple of honorable mentions for this category. I have DeMeco Ryans and Kyle Shanahan as my honorable mentions. Again, if you were to stick them in your top 10, whether it's 10, 9, 8, 7, wherever, I'm not going to complain. I think DeMeco Ryans I was really debating on putting him at number 10 or even like 9. I mean, those guys are so interchangeable. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know. These coaches are just so good at what they do. Again, you can just move it around however you want. DeMeco Ryans is an amazing coach. He's a high energy, coaches a high level defense. He's just a high level person in the Houston Texans facility. That's what they needed for years, and they got him. So good for them. And then Kyle Shanahan again. He's a great coach. Last year, they missed the playoffs. And the only problem I really have with Kyle Shanahan, and I think a lot of people do, is that his depth, he doesn't really focus on that. Like, he is just all in on his starters, which I get. But once the starters go down, it's just nothing's there. Like, nothing's there. The whole juice gets sucked out of the defense, the offensive side of the ball, which, he focuses on the most, obviously. It just completely collapses. Like, it's a completely different team the next week without their star player. And, it's like that for any team. But even when it's not their star player, even when it's just, a good player, which most teams have the depth to kind of, replace the guy for the most part. You know what I mean? You're not necessarily replacing the guy fully, but you're still going to get production. Like the guys they put in, they get no production out of. Like Jordan Mason was good. No one's Christian McCaffrey. Not a lot of people are, but man, the depth they lack. So he's not a great roster builder. Let me put it that way. But he's a great offensive play caller. He's a great head coach. So number 10, I have Kevin O'Connell. On a lot of lists, he's a lot higher. But one of the things with Kevin O'Connell that kind of throws me back a little bit is he tends to get very pass happy. When Kevin O'Connell is in his bag, like he's a quarterback whisperer. That's kind of his nickname, and it's true. What he did with Sam Darnold, it was pretty incredible. But, again, like in the playoffs last year against the Rams, man, they threw the ball way too much. They were out of it by the first quarter. They were literally like, they just looked out of it. And sometimes he just kind of he just completely abandons the run game. And I get a lot of coaches do that, but his offense can look very sloppy at times because he's so obsessed with just pushing the pace. And, sometimes it's a little concerning, especially now with J.J. McCarthy back there. Again, no one knows. Maybe J.J. McCarthy's going to be a great passer and, we'll all prove us all wrong. I hope he does. I hope any player does well. But at the same time, he's not a Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has a rocket of an arm, and is a lot more of an improviser. JJ McCarthy can do that, and he does do that, but he's not known as a passer. I don't know. We'll see. The whole thing in Minnesota is just a big question mark right now. They have a great roster. Like, Minnesota has a top tier roster, but just a little worrisome with that department. 9, I have Dan Quinn. Again, Dan Quinn, I actually really liked him when he coached the Falcons. I really liked him then. And he was a great defensive coordinator in Dallas. I mean, their defense was like top notch with him there. He's a great defensive coordinator. He steps in Washington, and they're in the NFC Championship a year after picking number 2 overall. Like, that's pretty good. I mean, you can't really complain about that, obviously. I mean, especially after the whole debacle with Ron Rivera, he's a real head coach. Dan Quinn is a real head coach. There's no doubt about that. Just, again, the whole thing looming over Washington right now with the Terry McLaurin thing and all, it's just a little strange. Excuse me. It's a little strange. And sometimes, I don't know how to explain it, but he kind of gets a little tone deaf on offense. Like, I get if you're a defensive head coach and, they're all tone deaf on offense to a degree. I mean, for the most part, they really are. But sometimes this clock management is like, dude, what are you doing? Like, all coaches have that moment where they're like, what are you calling timeout for? What are you not calling timeout for? But I don't know. I think one thing with Dan Quinn, I think we just need a couple more years of him in Washington, because these guys up here on this list, these guys are, seasoned with their teams, or seasoned veterans with their teams. These guys are like historical in our franchise. And that's what makes it, because you look at Dan Quinn, he is realistically just he could be a top 5 head coach, but those guys in the top 5 are just, it's hard, man. Head coaches is a hard list to rank, because you have to put the guys who haven't been with their teams as long more on the bottom. But you could rank these guys in the top 3. I mean, they're great head coaches. Like Kevin O'Connell, you could rank, I had him at 10, you could rank him 5. I mean, you really could. I wouldn't complain. So let's move on to number 8. But Jim Harbaugh, again, he's an outstanding head coach. Just would like to see him a little longer with the Chargers. The way they lost in the playoffs last year was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, they just got smoked. A lot of that was on Herbert. Excuse me. A lot of that was on Herbert. But, I think they just needed to build their roster a little more. I wasn't too happy with again, some of their offensive additions this year. I know they were really counting on Mike Williams. He retired, which is not necessarily a great thing for that team. It's not a good thing at all, but they were kind of like really counting on him to kind of revive that offense. Mike Williams was past his prime. Like, he's been through multiple big injuries. I mean, he's always been kind of an injury-prone player. There's no way he would have played all 17 games. I think they're going to re-sign Keenan Allen at some point, to be honest with you. I think that's just kind of something that's going to happen in time. And I think that'll definitely help, but yeah, I don't know. He's very pound the ball. We know that about Jim Harbaugh. He's seen in Michigan and everything. He's very just run it. The problem is, though, the Chargers, if they get down, they don't have the firepower to come back. So that's where you kind of struggle with that a little bit, that philosophy. But, every philosophy has its upsides and its downsides. So 7, I have Nick Sirianni. Again, the only thing with Nick Sirianni is, like, no one really knows what he does, but he's doing something right. I'll give him his credit. He's doing something right. I mean, the dude's been to 2 Super Bowls. He just won one this year. He has an insane roster, but look at the Ravens. I mean, they've had John Harbaugh, who's considered a great coach, and they've had a great roster. They haven't made the Super Bowl since 2012. So, Nick Sirianni's doing something right. I definitely give him his credit. But at the same time, these guys coming up next, I just have just better coaches in general. because again, Nick Sirianni, I don't really know what side of the ball he's on as much. I think that goes for most people. I mean, every time I see someone talk about Nick Sirianni, they say, well, I don't really know whether he's on this side or this department or, whatever he's on. Yeah, but, I give him his flowers. People still have him outside of the top 10 as head coach. He just won a Super Bowl. Again, if he won a Super Bowl and didn't make the playoffs the next 3 years, then we knew it was like a fluke year, but he's made Super Bowl 2 out of the last 3 years and won one of them. So he deserves his credit. 6, I had John Harbaugh. Some people may think this is a little low. I'm not as high on John Harbaugh as most people, to be honest with you. Again, I live 20 minutes away from Baltimore. My family's Ravens fans. My friends are all Ravens fans. Yeah, this whole area is, to be honest with you. And there's been massive disappointment in Baltimore. I mean, no matter where you live at, you just know the Ravens have been just constantly disappointed year in, year out. And there's only been one constant through it all, and it's him. They've replaced multiple offensive coordinators, Greg Roman, defensive coordinators, everything. There's only been one constant through all of it, and that's John Harbaugh. So I think this is a big year for him. If they get upset again, they're going to have to fire him. I think you just need a fresh start. That's just me. I know him and Eric DeCosta are really good friends, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's tough. I don't know. I'm not as high on John Harbaugh as most people, to be honest with you. I'm really not. As a maybe even putting him lower, but he's had a lot of playoff success, just getting there, regular season success, Super Bowl champ. I can't put him low. Number 5, I had Mike Tomlin. Again, a pretty controversial one. He's off some, big analysts, top 10 head coaching lists, which I think is completely unfair. The dude's never had a losing season, and I get it. He's never had a losing season, but we go 10-7, haven't won a playoff game in 7 years or 8 years or whatever it is. I get it. No, it's extremely frustrating. That's why I have him at number 5. I probably should have put John Harbaugh over him, but the Steelers have had the best of the Ravens for a long time, especially in the regular season. I know the Ravens beat them in the playoffs in a regular season game this year, but, I just think Tomlin's just that much better. Just because, honestly, the Steelers rosters compared to the Ravens rosters the last couple of years, and even any roster they go against, again, don't get me wrong, the Steelers have good players. They do have really good players. But if Mike Tomlin wasn't there, this team does not have a winning record. And then the last 3 years, you're telling me they're winning with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph? They have winning records? No way. You stick Brian Callahan in there. That team is going 4-13. Okay, the dude is a great head coach. He coaches a great defense. He's tone deaf on offense completely. He doesn't care about that side of the ball at all, which is completely obvious because that's been their offense ever since that's been their problem, is their offense ever since Big Ben left. So 4, I have Sean Payton. What he's done with the Broncos, especially in the last year, has been great. Remember when they lost to the Dolphins a few years ago? Was it 70-20 or something? I was like, dude, what do the Broncos do? I thought that was it for Sean Payton already, but his bounce back has been incredible. Again, they needed to get rid of Russell Wilson, and he did that. He made it clear he didn't want Russell Wilson as this guy when he got there. Good move. Bo Nix has been again a very solid draft pick for them. He's been very good. Yeah, good for Sean Payton. The dude's been great at Denver. They see massive success, and they look like they're going to be a playoff team for the next couple of years. And good for him. He's a big part of that because the whole debacle with Nathaniel Hackett and all that, it was brutal down there in Denver, and he has changed that organization around. That's just what comes from being a stand-up head coach, kind of a cocky guy, but he has the wins and stuff to prove it. 3, we're just going to kind of shoot through the top 3 here. I have Dan Campbell. What he's done with the Lions is just nothing short of incredible. Man, that roster or that organization has been a joke, and the roster. It's been a joke for years, my entire life. I think most of my parents' life. Detroit has never been good. they have some outlier years, of course, but consistently, I mean, never in my lifetime for sure. I mean, and they've had, Stafford, like they have some decent players every now and then, but Calvin Johnson, but the organization is just a joke. And they've really turned around, and Dan Campbell is a big part of that. I mean, he's a guy who goes up there and, he makes people listen when he's up there. And he is just a high energy, just again, just a high energy, high level person. And, I think the only thing that's kind of scary with Dan Campbell is his fourth down. He's a kind of strange decision maker. It pays off, though. I mean, it does. Then, it has the times it doesn't pay off. But, man, you have to have some serious guts to do what Dan Campbell does. He makes the locker room listen. No, he's a culture builder. That's what he is. And I said a couple weeks ago, that was an organization who never even had a pulse. And the city of Detroit, when it came to the Lions, didn't even have a pulse. He completely revived that team. That team's completely different than what it was 4 years ago. So good for him. 2, I have Sean McVay. He's just a great coach. He had the one really bad year a couple of years ago when Stafford was out. They had to pull Baker Mayfield, and then they had like Bryce Perkins for a little bit. And it was weird in Los Angeles that year. That wasn't really his fault, but yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl champ, he's just a really good head coach. Like, I don't know, like you watch him, dude, he's just, again, a culture builder. The Rams, and he's just extremely young. The Rams can have their head coach for the next 40 years if they wanted to, if they wanted to do it that long. I mean, he's that good of a coach. And number 1, I have Andy Reid, probably the most obvious one here. He's kind of the Bill Belichick of the 2020s to this point, to be honest with you, he is. I think the only thing that's worrisome about Andy Reid is how much longer is he going to coach? He's getting old. He's kind of had some health problems. But as long as he's there, he's going to be number 1, barring they go unless they don't make the playoffs the next couple of years or something, then obviously you have to drag it. I think he'd probably be gone at that point. But, again, the only thing with Andy Reid, the only question mark or bad thing is just his age and his health and how much longer does he want to keep coaching. That's it. But as long as he's coaching on the Chiefs, and they're making Super Bowl runs, he's going to be number 1. He just is. So next, we have the top 10 defenses in the league. We're just going to kind of shoot through these a little bit here. Number 10, again, I didn't put any honorable mentions. I probably should have, to be honest with you. But the top 10 defenses can be kind of hard to rank. A lot of teams have, rosters, that have that you probably rank at 19 or 20 have great players on the defense. I mean, you can name any defense that has a couple star-studded players, but you just need the all-around unit to be decent at least. So yeah, defenses can be kind of hard to rank. If you have, I don't know, a defense that's ranked number 16. I don't know who's not necessarily ranked 16 for me. I don't have a full-on list right now. Probably will at some point, but you can probably stick them at 10. So speaking of number 10, though, we're going to do the New York Giants. As high, I'm not very high on the Giants. There's some optimism around the Giants organization, which, there should be some. They have some good building pieces to build around. The one they just don't have is the main one, which is quarterback. I'm not a Jackson Dart guy. Again, that may come back to bite me in the end, but I'm just not. But their defense is one of those cores that I'm actually pretty high on. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Thibodeau. Again, they're talking about getting rid of him. He's just a solid pass rusher. Again, has he been kind of disappointing for his draft spot? Yes. But he's had his moments. And, I really, really do like their defensive unit. They play hard. And I think if they play, sorry, I meant the main one I forgot to mention was Abdul Carter. How in the world did I forget his name? Abdul Carter, drafting him this year. Yeah, that defensive unit is going to be extremely solid. They have a really good pass rush. It's a pretty fierce pass rush, So I definitely have to give them some credit there. So yeah, I have him at 10. You could put him a little higher. I get it. Not going to complain. The only thing that worries me about them is how much are they going to be on the field because of their offense. I don't know what's going on with the quarterback. And that goes for any defense. If you're constantly on the field, you're going to be worn out. So, and at number 9, I have Seattle. I have the Seahawks. Man, Mike McDonald just being the head coach for that defense just boosts them another tier for me. But they have really good players. I like their secondary a lot. Their secondary is really good. I like Witherspoon. I like Rick Woolen. They're just, again, they're a hard hitting team as well. Like, you watch them, they're just everywhere on the field. But again, their offense, I think their offense is going to have an explosive element with Cooper Kupp, JSN, Sam Darnold, Kenneth Walker. Even though the last couple of years he's been like, what the world's going on with him? Can the offense keep the defense off the field? But Mike McDonald coaches that unit hard. Maybe I could have put him a little higher, but again, these are also interchangeable right here. 8, I have the Rams. I love the Rams defense. I love how fast they are. They're a young unit. They have Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. Those are really good players they drafted last year, and I really like them a lot, especially Jared Verse. Man, he was great last year. Even though you can't necessarily name, whether some of their quarterbacks, whatever it is, they're not necessarily, big star-studded names. They're good players. Like, they're just fast and get to the ball. Or get to the player with the ball. They just do. You have to watch them to see it. I mean, they were a drive away from beating Philadelphia and going to the NFC Championship last year. Now, I know they had the snow game and all, but that defense was huge in that run. They were great. And at number 7, I have my New England Patriots. That's Christian Gonzalez. People are really going to hear his name more this year. The team isn't going to suck. When your team sucks, you just don't hear the players. Like, Christian Gonzalez hasn't got the recognition. He's necessarily, I don't know, I'll use the word deserved over the last couple of years because he's been amazing. And I mean, he's put up like historically good numbers for a quarterback for his first couple of years. It just sucked. But now you're really going to hear his name. God, what's it? I don't. Maybe it's my own team. I can't remember Carlton Davis, the other quarterback. That's gonna be a really good duo. Peppers, the safety's back, massive because he's one of the better safeties in the league. Kyle Duggar is good. He kind of looks like he's starting to suck now, but Mike Vrabel's going to coach that defense. They have a really good pass rush. I like their linebacking core. Patriots have a fierce defense. 6, I have the Chiefs. The Chiefs, their defense is really what's gotten to the Super Bowl the last couple of years. Their offense has not been as explosive as it has been the last couple of years. And their defense, coached by Spagnuolo, has been amazing. It really has. It's been incredible. Except against Philadelphia in the Super Bowl this year. They just got torched. I mean, they just looked completely out-talented in that game. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, Chiefs defense is always going to be good. They have really good players. 5, I have the Bills. Sean McDermott coaches a good defense. I like the Bosa addition. Gregory Rousseau has been one of the more underrated players the last couple of years. He's been really good. Their quarterbacks are kind of, I don't know, I think they might be aging a little bit. Tre'Davious White definitely is. I don't know. He probably won't be the same player, whether he can stay on the field for all 17 games, or let's just start off with like even 10 games would be a start. Number 4, I have the Texans. Dude, I love Will Anderson. I love Daniel Hunter. I love that pass rushing duo. Derek Stingley broke out to be one of the best corners in the NFL. They have just been on a tear, that defense has. D'Amico Ryans just really taken that unit to the next level. And then 3, the Broncos. You watched them last year. They were like a vicious defense. They've only added, especially in their draft, their pass rushing group was one of the better ones I've seen in a long time. Man, Nick Benito, where did he come from? I mean, goodness. That dude was nuts last year, man. And then we'll just go over 2-1. Two of the Eagles. One I have the Ravens. Again, great groups, interchangeable. Um, Again, most people honestly probably have the Eagles at one, especially after last year. I get it. I will never complain because you have an amazing unit. But the Ravens to me just have a little bit of an edge to me. Mainly to the Jair Alexander signing. I like Malachi Starks. They draft that pass rusher out of Marshall, and they already have like decent pass rushers anyway. Dalfi Owe had a little bit of an overrated season last year. I know he had double-digit sacks. When you look at the statistics, he had the most garbage time sacks in the league. They're one of them. It was 10 sacks over garbage time. So, but he's good though. He's all right. But they have an amazing unit. Both teams do. So you can interchange them however you want. I just have the Eagles 2 and the Ravens 1. I just like the Ravens a little bit more. And then our last category today for the top 10, I have the top 10 pass rushers in the league. A couple honorable mentions. I have Abdul Carter. I think he's going to have an amazing rookie year. I've watched him at Penn State. Dude, he looked like a man amongst boys at Penn State. Like, I feel like he's going to look like that going into the NFL. Like, he is a ball player, man. He really is. The dude can just one second he's on the line of scrimmage, then the next second he is just chasing the quarterback for his life, like literally in a flash. It's just crazy. And then I actually have Trayvon Walker. I know that might sound kind of strange. You could replace him with Josh Hines Allen, Daniil Hunter. I get it. Again, any of these guys you can put there. But Trayvon Walker, I feel like, is going to have that breakout year. He's actually looked pretty good his last, especially last year. He looked pretty good. So, again, a lot of credit to him. Number 10, I have Trey Hendrickson. I think he's going to take a little bit of a step back from his year last year. And he was arguably a top 5 pass rusher last year. I understand. So I think he definitely was probably a top 5 pass rusher last year. But, again, he's aging a little bit. And, the whole thing going on right now with the Bengals. I think he's back playing at training camp right now. So it's kind of looking up, I guess. But, I just kind of had that one really, really good year last year. Like, he's been a good pass rusher. But I don't know if he's going to necessarily replicate that this year. But I think he'll still be good. 9, kind of a shocking pick here. I had Nick Benito. I just talked about him a couple of minutes ago. I think he's going to take that next leap. I've watched him. It looked like he was shooting out of a cannon sometimes. He was, like the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year for a good bit of weeks midway through the season. Then, it kind of fell off a little bit, but he was still a finalist, I think. He was just incredible. And he's still extremely young. I mean, I think it's only up for him, especially because their defense is upgraded. So now, there's other worries on that on that defense from the Denver Broncos. So, hey, that's better for Nick Benito because not necessarily all of the pressure will be on him now. They have multiple units they have to watch, again, which only helps him. I really have him taking a leap into being a top 10 pass rusher this year. I do. He was, man, watching him last year was just like, dude, who is this guy? Everyone's like, who is this guy? And shock in the football world. Incredible. 8, I have Nick Bosa. Again, I think we're going to kind of start seeing him regress as he's aging. He's been through some injuries. He had some of his lowest numbers of his career last year. Again, he's still a top 10 pass rusher, but I think Nick Bosa's I think he's peaked. I think we're going to kind of start seeing him kind of start taking some steps back a little bit, to be perfectly honest with you. I think this could be his last year we see him in the top 10. We're definitely coming down on those years for him. 7, I have Jared Verse. Man, Jared Verse, what a rookie year for him. And he's only going to get better. He's only going to get more stronger, more experienced, more faster. Barring any injuries, of course. I hope he doesn't. But, man, Jared Verse is a great player. And like I said, he's only going to get better. You just had to watch him last year. And if you did, you're like, dude, what the hell? This guy is just something else. 6, I have Will Anderson Jr. Again, he's been taking a next step every season. He's going into his prime now. He's pushing that top 5 pass rusher territory, which I think he can easily break into this year. He's just an absolute dog back there. You can, dig into statistics and all. I have all the stats right here next to me, but I'm just more of just watch him die. Like, if you just watch him, because I mentioned like Odafe Owe a few minutes ago, right? He had the most garbage time stats. You can look into statistics, and you're like, wow, this guy had double-digit sacks. Like, where's his recognition? Where's his love? But when it comes down to the big moments, or just anywhere throughout the game, you do not hear like Odafe Owe's name. Or, you can pick out anybody else. I'm not just trying to pick on Odafe Owe in general, but I'm just saying right now while he's on my mind that I just talked about him. Like, that's just statistics only go so far for me. You just have to watch some of these guys. And Will Anderson Jr., again, you just watch him out there. He's just throwing guys around. Like, I watched him play against the Patriots last year. I think he had 3 sacks against Drake May. Just throwing him around. I mean, it was just crazy. I think the dude's going to break in the top 5 territory this year. I have him at 6, but he could go up higher. 5, I had Max Crosby. He took a step back last year, but he suffered an ankle injury in week 2, was playing through it. They had to shut him down. I think he had surgery on it and all, but he was still playing through it, actually playing really good. The guy's just incredible to watch. He looks like he's starting to become a generational guy. Not only he's a stand-up guy too. He used to be an addict and stuff like that. He is just taking that next level and really being an inspiration for others. Good for him. And he's took it into the next level with his game as well. So, again, good for Max Crosby. 4, I had TJ Watt. Again, TJ Watt's just aging a little bit. He's on that contract, but he's still TJ Watt. He's going to be a game wrecker. Same with Max Crosby. Max Crosby's a game wrecker. Same thing with TJ Watt. That's why I say that, because you can interchange both of them. TJ Watt's one of the better pass rushers of this generation. He's like breaching at the all-time territory. He's probably already there. He just needs another year or two to really be in the all-time conversation. 3, I have Micah Parsons. Again, Micah Parsons, I just don't know where he's going to play, whether he stays a Cowboy or whether he goes somewhere else. That plays a big role, who he's playing next to. If he's playing next to a Will Anderson or something, or maybe not necessarily that level, but like a Trey Hendrickson or, Justin Madubuike, or I know he changed his first name, but you know what I'm talking about. That's really going to just be, or let me say about it, like a Bills Joey Bosa. Like, if he were to go to Buffalo, like, that's going to help him a lot. Or if he were to go to somewhere where they don't necessarily have even a half decent, second pass rusher, that would kind of drag him down a little bit, because he's going to be constantly get double teamed every play. So yeah, I have Michael Parsons at 3. I just don't know his situation yet. 2, I have Myles Garrett. Again, Myles Garrett had some of the best numbers of his career this year. This last year. I think he's going to do it again. He's just an all-time pass rusher. Again, him and TJ Watt are just generational guys. He's one of them. But at number 1, I had Aiden Hutchinson. I know that may seem like kind of a surprise, but he was on a historic pace last year. Then he just tore his leg to shreds. I think he's going to do it again. But his finesse, his technique, his speed off the edge. He's just a guy you do not want to face. If you're a quarterback and you see him when they're scheduled next week, or you're up a couple of weeks or whatever, you're like, you're not going to play against Aiden Hutchinson this week, man. Oh, and that's just a nightmare for any tackle too. I mean, I think he's going to be the defensive player of the year this year. That's my favorite. Is Aiden Hutchinson. I think, again, that may come to a surprise for some people, him being a number 1, but I really think he is. He was on pace to be number 1 last year by a long shot. So, yeah, I have Hutchinson at number 1 for my pass rushers. That's it for my top 10s today. Let's go over Bill Belichick a little bit here for a couple minutes. Will Bill Belichick coach in the NFL again? And what's the situation at University of North Carolina? I'll just say this about Bill Belichick. If the Tennessee Titans, I just use them because, their head coach may be gone after this year. Who knows? I mean, no one's really high on Brian Callahan. He kind of seems like a bridge guy, to be honest with you. But even if, their team is going to be like really bad, everyone knows the Titans are going to be competing for the number 1 overall pick. Even the Saints, they would have fired their head coach and called Bill Belichick. He'd be on the plane in 5 minutes to New Orleans or Tennessee or anywhere. It doesn't matter how bad or good the team is. He would leave University of North Carolina in 2 seconds. He couldn't get out of there fast enough. Because you know what? Whoever is going to give Bill Belichick the job is giving him a GM role. And that's why, people talk about, well, why isn't Bill Belichick coaching? It's not that he can't coach. It's that they don't want to be in the GM of their team. He wants that role of being the GM. And quite frankly, while you may say, well, he's a 6-time Super Bowl champion, he deserves it. He doesn't deserve it. He tore the New England Patriots apart with his roster decisions, his drafting. Oh my God, his drafting was so bad. I mean, just tortured us for years with it. He doesn't deserve to be a GM. He had his chance and he blew it. He sucked at being a GM. And teams like the Falcons seen it. And I say like shame on the Falcons for picking Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick. To a coaching standpoint, absolutely. But when it comes to your organization, like they've made bad moves, like with their GMing anyway, wouldn't have really made a difference. I don't think he would have given Kirk Cousins $350 million. But, Raheem Morris and Bill Belichick aren't even on the same stratosphere of coaching. They're not at all. But you don't want him being your GM because you've seen what he did to the New England Patriots. He tore them apart. And that's the only worrisome part with Bill Belichick. That's why he went to University of North Carolina. He has full reign of the roster building of everything. He's the GM and the coach. The NFL is a lot more hesitant to give him that GM role. That's why he's not coaching anywhere. Again, that's like I said, it's not that Bill Belichick can't coach. It's that he can't GM. And he wants to be both. Bro, you're probably never going to be a GM in the NFL again. They may give you some little stake in it, but you're not going to be the main voice in it. You picked N'Keal Harry over A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown cried his eyes out when he's seen the New England Patriots said, Beckham, you want to be a Patriot so bad. It's a lifelong Patriots fan. I see they posted a picture a month or two ago of him with a Brady jersey. He wants to play in New England still. He even said when he won the Super Bowl that he wasn't even that gratified by it. I tell you right now, he's just on the Eagles for the money. To be honest with you, if he could go to New England, he wouldn't heartbeat. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Patriots fan. He's a diehard Patriots fan as well. So, again, knowing that, and A.J. Brown was just the better player, if you pick N'Keal Harry, who's one of the worst players of all time, one of the worst players of all time, and it's terrible. That alone just basically just shoot yourself in the foot 20 times over. And a lot of his other, he drafted some kicker named Walser in the 5th round or something, who was just never even played. He had some tattoo on his chest. I don't know if I can say it on YouTube. I'm not going to say it, but just look it up for yourself. It was brutal. A lot of his drafting decisions are just terrible. So I think Bill Belichick will coach in the NFL again at some point, but he's not going to have a GM role. Will he accept that though? I don't know. It's a big question mark because now he's full reign at UNC. But I think it's one and done at college for him. He's not going to be satisfied there, and I can't see that team winning like an Natty or anything. But we'll see. I think some team's going to give him an NFL job at some point. I'm sure they'll fall into him being a GM or whatever. It'll happen. So. Yep, that's it for today's podcast. Again, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you guys so much for showing the support. I had 100 followers on TikTok this morning. We're at 55 subscribers on YouTube. You guys have just been outstanding. I can't thank you guys enough for your support. And I will see you guys tomorrow on the podcast.